Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Wednesday night of action here at twitch.tv/Blue Otter League. This will be our coverage of the fourth week of Season 11 in the Blue Otter Platinum League. The aforementioned action that we do have for you consists of a best of three between Goon Squad Gaming and the Conduit Gremlins. The Goon Squad did not get off to the strongest start this season, as they did lose 1-2 to Agni Kai in Week 1 in what was a very close match. But they have been ramping up ever since with very decisive 2-0 victories over the Big Duck Entourage in Week 2 and over AIE Anguish last week. Conduit Gremlins, on the other hand, have been looking very formidable also. They are currently still undefeated so far in Season 11, having not dropped a single game in the first 3 weeks of play. However, many pundits are saying their strength of schedule has been quite easy, with tonight's opponent being their strongest one yet. We are starting a little bit later than usual due to some technical issues with Spectator and other things, but without any further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. My name is Crewman44. I am joined in the Blue Otter streaming channel by the utterly amazing Alls once again. Alls, welcome to Week 4. How we doing?
Well, I'd like for Riot Games to figure their stuff out, but other than that, Crewman, we're having a great time. It's always fun to be cast in Blue Otter, especially a team like Goon Squad that we had the chance to cast just a couple of weeks ago, who looked so incredibly good. I'm really, really excited to see what they're going to bring up against a team that is, nominally at least, in the top of the standings.
Right, absolutely right, Alls. This is going to be a pivotal matchup in determining how those standings are going to look heading into the second half of the regular season here. We do have the fully completed draft, as you can see, guys, pulled up for you right now. So not doing it the way that we usually do, running through one pick at a time. Just going to be looking holistically overall at how things panned out here. As you can see, Goon Squad Gaming going to be on the blue side here for this first game. And already a couple of interesting things jumping out at me, Alls. You know, the B1 Maokai coming through. This is something that we know that Goon Squad support does like to go for. And then Finch's favorite, the Orianna, locked away as well there for GSG on the blue side.
Yeah, I'm also a little bit surprised by this Zeri. She's had a little bit more priority recently, but she's still one of those champions that has to have her team do so incredibly well because she doesn't hit those breakpoints until about the third item, especially if she goes for that static shiv start. She just doesn't have any real damage in the early game. So that's one of those ADCs that is a little bit of a ticking time bomb for your own team if you can't get ahead, or at the very least stabilize that lane very well. And into what appears to be a Maokai Xayah, that seems very dangerous to me, Crewman.
It certainly can be. You know, your point well taken that the Zeri does take a little bit of time to ramp up. I do think it is somewhat matchup dependent on, you know, the actual weakness of that Zeri early game. You know, the Xayah on the other side, not necessarily known for being extremely powerful in the early game or anything like that either. So could be okay for the Zeri there, but the Maokai I think certainly can be very threatening. You know, the Maokai support has been nerfed now a couple of times. But as we can see, still highly prioritized by the Goons. They think they can still make this pick work. One, I already briefly mentioned, Alls, the Finch Orianna, and I want to actually touch on that a little bit more because this is a pick that this player has relied on very, very heavily. This is going to be Finch's 6th game in a row on Orianna. Is going to be 7 out of 8 games now played this season on the pick. Last week, was definitely the MVP against AIE Anguish. Went 13-1 and 19 in those 2 games on the Orianna. That's combined KDA. So definitely a player and a player pick combination, rather, that I think we are going to be needing to watch out for.
Yeah, it's a little bit surprising. I mean, admittedly, Conduit is down 2 bans, likely due to emergency substitution here. But by the same token, when you have a player that has played the same champion for, as you mentioned, 7 out of 8 games here, that's a lot of comfort that you can take away with a single click, a single ban. So I'm very surprised that Conduit didn't choose to do so. Admittedly, the LeBlanc Intuit is a fairly strong pick. It does have a lot of potential to outduel the Orianna in the early game, but Still, it does feel like a very strange drafting choice, and I'm curious if it's going to pay off here.
Yeah, I mean, nobody has really decided to take this one away from Finch just yet, right? He's been getting it every game, so, we'll have to see if the Gremlins do end up losing out in this first game. I think that's certainly an adaptation that I would like to see, but obviously now getting a little bit ahead of ourselves here. I think, Alls, we probably should just go ahead and jump into this first game. What do you say?
Yeah, I've got no reason to say no, so crewman, let's go ahead and hop over and get this show on the road as we load into the Rift here. Goon Squad on blue, Conduit on red. Anything you expect in this early game? Are we just going to see a 5-point? We're going to see any fun invades here with the Maokai looking for an early twisted advance?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, as far as level ones go, Alls, I don't think either one of these compositions is necessarily, super advantaged at the level 1 mark. I do think that there's some things that they could try to make happen, but I don't think that's really necessary. And I feel like these teams, just gonna pretty much play it safe at the level 1 mark. Is gonna give us some time, rather, also do just a little bit more stage setting. As Conduit Gremlins, as we did already touch on briefly, they are still undefeated, 6-0 in game score, obviously 3-0 in match score as well. So that is clearly a good amount of momentum that they are carrying into this match. However, a little bit of a fun fact for us here. Their second game last week against last week's opponent was the Nameless Gnomes for Conduit Gremlins. That game number 2 actually dragged on for over 50 minutes. So the Nameless Gnomes really pushed this team. And, the side of the Gremlins really struggled to actually close that game out. So while, yes, we can say that the Gremlins do have momentum coming into this one, there is that little bit of an asterisk there, I think.
Yeah, there's also the potential awkwardness here as we look at this roster. Not so dark up there in the top lane on the Trundle is normally the bot laner, the ADC for this Conduit squad. Having Bam there in the bot lane, being a sub ADC, that's a role that requires a lot of good communication and good flow with your support. So having someone new in there without perhaps as much practice, as many reps on these pairings, could be a little bit difficult for Anguish to manage, but... not Anguish, I apologize, Gremlins. But if they can do so, Not So Dark has been a long-term standby in the amateur scene and has proven himself on many, many roles, so wouldn't be surprised if he has the capacity to pop off here a little bit.
Absolutely. I do think it is very good that you highlight that, Alls, as, of course, having that substitution is going to mean that the side of the Gremlins not necessarily at full strength for this particular battle, as I do believe it's the full starting 5 on the other side for Goon Squad.
Yes, it is, and this is almost to a man, or to a letter even, the roster we casted in week 2 of this split, although Gengarifith has simplified his name just a little bit, which, given that I butchered it in week 2, does make me feel a little bit less worried.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate that. Shout out to the Goon Squad ADC there, helping us casters out with the little bit of a name shortening. So I love to see. Pine Foimal hovering around this mid lane, but the Orianna sees him, and so he's not actually, I think, going to be able to find anything at the current time. So junglers did path towards opposite sides, started on their respective red buffs, and now find themselves, potentially trading off these scuttle crabs, as the Poppy did just go for the full clear, except minus Krugs. Did skip those Krugs. We'll go ahead and secure the top scuttle, and now just going for the reset. So slightly ahead of the Jarvan right now, but no, not a significant lead.
Yeah, and this is something that normally happens with Jarvan because you really want that level 2, level 3 gank before laners have a lot of abilities when that flag and drag is at its most impactful. So it makes sense why Pine was hovering around that mid lane, but as you said, unfortunately unable to make anything of it, and will now have to keep looking for ganks. Finch outside of the flash is vulnerable. Gengar outside of the flash is vulnerable, so there's plenty of opportunity down on this bot half of the map, and we can see already looking at this mid lane once again.
Yeah, looking to try and put some pressure on Finch here as the chain will connect. That was set up for the EQ, and Finch, very greedily, just wanting to hold on to the flash, gives over the first blood to the Gremlin jungler.
Yeah, and you have to read that the moment you see that J4 is coming into your lane. You know that the CC will be layered. You have to flash the chain. You can't hold and try and greed out the flag and drag because the chain will lock you into place. So just a little bit of a misplay mechanically by Finch, and will cost him the TP, will cost him a lot of pressure, and will let LeBlanc leave this wave in a nice juicy spot where it's going to leave this Orianna very exposed to follow-up ganks from Pine.
Yeah, although the GVG on the LeBlanc there does not have the teleport, so Orianna actually will be able to move back in, get that wave shoved up to the turret, and so we'll get the bounce back as well. But yeah, I mean, I think even after the chain lands there, you can still flash away and get underneath your turret and, like, not die to that Jarvan gank, because Pine is not going to want to chase you all the way behind your tier 1. I mean, he's absolutely getting traded for that if he does, so I think at any point there, Finch really could have gone for the flash, just deciding not to, as Soul now might be his turn to see if he wants to use the summoner spell. Will go for the flash, but the Jarvan was holding on to the EQ. Finch is here, doesn't have the shockwave quite yet, though. The top laner is going to go down. Necromancer was trying to take those grubs, is going to be able to flash in, find the wall bang onto Dark, and they get a kill back on towards the Trundle. Pine, though, finding another knock up in his own mid laner, rotating over. He smites away one of the Kevins, and now it's Decker on the Maokai. The supports have roamed all the way up for this one, but Jarvan once again, the combo has come off cooldown. Finch now will be able to flash away. Did get some good use out of that summoner spell in the end, and now it's Decker on the chase. GVG flashing forward, wants to take down the LeBlanc, finds the chain, should be enough, and there is the kill over to the Gremlin mid laner, though. Soul able to trade one back onto the support, but now the Urgot all on his lonesome will get taken down here as well. It's absolute bloodbath in the topside river. I don't even know, is that like a 4-for-1?
I believe it was. And, you know, I love these early game fights, the complete chaos that they bring. Dark died very early on in that fight, but because it lasted so long, because so many people kept walking up and joining in, he TP'd back, he joined the fight again, he got a kill at the end of it.
He sure did, and look at Pine's Jarvan here, 4-0 for the Gremlin jungler on the J4.
Yeah,
and,
already
so
well clear of 2 components here. That's a good start for him, but we'll be trading off this Drake.
Yes, absolutely. The Goon squad will be able to lock down this dragon. You know, 2 of those grubs did go over to Jarvan and the Gremlins, but critically, or importantly rather, you know, Necromancer was able to secure 1 as well. So that is 1 grub gone over to the Goon squad also. So, you know, pretty even so far in terms of those neutral objectives, but obviously the gold is going to be favoring the Gremlins early on here.
Yeah, and crewman, we have had this conversation before about the grubbies. The magic number is 2 to deny the Kevins, the Twitch chatters, from spawning in the side lane. And with Urgot and Trundle here, not to mention the LeBlanc, you desperately want to not have those. Is Finch getting ganked here?
Finch no flash, does dodge away from the chain. It's a nice shockwave as well, but the second chain does come out, and the pillar there as well to prevent the Orianna's escape. And Dark going to be able to secure the last hit on that one after a nice roam down towards mid.
Yeah, I think the shockwave unfortunately pulled Dark close enough that he could get that crunch off, which does slow you down for a little bit there right after it gets applied. Meant Finch couldn't get away as much as they wanted to, and good roam, good awareness from an ADC player. You don't think ADC, look at the map, but Dark in a new role up in the top side seems to be very comfortable already.
I mean, it speaks to that veterancy that you were talking about earlier, right? This is a player who has been around the amateur scene for a very long time and has played a number of different roles in the past as well. So, you know, taking that into account, maybe it's not as surprising that Dark would have the macro sense to go for that sort of play.
Very fair. Very fair, crewman.
Though, this lead on the Jarvan is actually bringing me back to something else that I wanted to mention sort of towards the top of this game number 1, as Pina actually, hold on a second, is going for a little bit of an invade towards the blue buff. Has to be careful, though, as the solo laners can rotate over. Might stick around for the smite fight if they let him, but Poppy gonna charge that blue sentinel back. Oh, he still wants it, and he does get the blue buff. At what cost, though? As I think his shutdown is gonna be going over. It looks like to the Urgot. As was it worth it, Pine? I'm not entirely sure.
Hey, he got that plus
no,
90.
It wasn't.
Plus 90. And Decker's up here.
You know,
Decker's in a lot of trouble. He can't take this damage.
Yeah, Decker only level 5 still on the Maokai. Does manage to get back towards the team. The Shockwave is good onto both the mid laner and the top laner of the Gremlins. Dark is going to get taken down here as well. So Decker does fall, but he trades himself off for the top laner. It's not too bad for the side of Goon Squad.
Yeah, all these roams from Decker, though, have left Bam in a position where he's been able to farm pretty much uncontested and unmolested throughout this game. Already almost has the
Pina into the mid lane, Cataclysm down onto the still flashless Orianna. GVG solo, one more auto from the Clockwork Windup is not going to come through as GVG on a sliver of health manages to stay alive, and we're 9-4 now on the scoreboard. Gremlins pulling ahead.
Yeah, I want to finish my thought there real quick because I mentioned in pregame how this Zeri needed to get to 2.5, 3 items before she's relevant. That if she falls behind, especially to Azaya, she starts to feel real bad in that mid game. Yeah, she's got first item advantage here. She already has the static shift. She's about to complete the Cole. So all this roaming that Decker has done has really put his ADC in a bad spot.
Yeah, definitely a good point there, Alls. I'm glad you had time to finish it. But yeah, this is one of our main concerns about the Zeri, right? Was that it can struggle into this Xayah Maokai lane. But if the Maokai is not there, then I guess the Zeri's chilling.
And look, Zeri's going to pick up another plate here. So even if she has to recall very quickly here, it's going to be with plate gold, with coal gold. That's incredibly powerful for Bam, although Nature's Grass coming in.
Oh, that's a nice little skate over the wall. Can't get away from the point-and-click twisted advance, though. Does have the Ghost for some movement speed and should be able to outrun Gengar here. Is going to pop the ultimate as well just to make sure. Flashing for the Bramble Smash, but the flash response from Bam to get on the other side of the tree will mean the Zeri survives that attempt.
Yeah, and if anything, that was more dangerous for the bot lane of Goon Squad here. I feel like if Bam had kited that out the way they were starting to and continued to push the fight, they could have taken down Decker Guy before Gengar got into real range and actually won that 1v1 against the ADC as well. So Goon Squad is lucky that Bam didn't press the advantage any further there.
Yeah, I suppose so. And the fact that they're not even able to get anything from that Decker, finally making an attempt onto the Zeri down here, but that means that the Maokai was not on the top side of the map to contest that second spawn of Grubs-alls. And look at that, magic number 5 over there for the Gremlins. That is exactly how many Grubs you need to get those little Twitch chatters on your side. As burning down, Finch does have the shield to not go down to that Ignite, but GVG has really been putting the pressure on in this mid lane.
Yeah, it seemed to stutter a bit there after distorting in. I wonder if there was some lag there or something, because that combo should have absolutely gone through, and Finch should have been seeing gray once again.
Not going to be the case. So the Orianna did have teleport as well to get back to the lane, and GVG obviously does not. So this could actually end up being pretty consequential as the side of Goon Squad move in and take control over this bot side river. This would be their second dragon if they are able to secure it, but we see the teleport coming down from Dark, the engage from Pine as he puts the tree in the Cataclysm. GVG, though, still with a low health bar, has to play this fight very carefully. The Shockwave is good. On to 2. Pine is going to be forced to try and go back in, but it's not going to work out. They do take down, though, Necromancer, and the Jarvan's still alive in the back of the pit. He doesn't have Smite, but it's not going to matter as he does secure the objective. Flashing away is there's the Janna, I think, flashing away there as Bam goes over the wall, and he does manage to take down the Maokai, trades himself off, though. The shutdown goes over to Xayah, but it's going to be another kill as the Orianna falls, and the Blanc picks up number 4. Yet another messy team fight, but yet again, Alls, it is the Gremlins who come out on top.
Yeah, 14 kills in less than 14 minutes here, crewman. This game has been absolutely wild. And look where the gold has gone. Sure, J4 has a ton of gold, and he doesn't necessarily scale the best in terms of that value, but the LeBlanc 4-0-6 is enormous at this point. Zeri even at 2-1-3, pushing that 2-item mark already, whereas Gengar only just has the Essence Reaver. They're getting their carries fed in the way they need to, and it doesn't look like GSG is going to go for team fights here because Soul already has the Hullbreaker. This is just going to get more and more awkward around these objectives here, crewman.
Yeah, what do you make of that choice from Soul to opt into the Hullbreaker's first item as well? So clearly this is just like a very early call from the top laner specifically, or maybe it is a team call that they're not going to want to have him group for the team fights, that he is going to be spending most of his time on the side lane. I mean, up against the 5 grubs as well, not having those on your side. I mean, do you think that's still a worthwhile choice, or do you think the team fights are just that doomed already, or what are your thoughts there?
Okay, on the one hand, yeah, the team fights are really in a rough spot, and especially into a Trundle, who is renowned as one of the best split pushers. If you leave him alone in a lane, he will take 2 towers before another wave crashes. But by the same token, you don't need the Hullbreaker to match him item number 1, and with an Orianna, Maokai, Xayah, this is a team that is absolutely built around that 5v5, so in terms of what the comp is built to do, I hate this decision from Seoul. And, I mean, you can see they don't have any contestation power here around this Rift Herald. They just have to give it up pretty much sight unseen.
Yeah, not able to do anything about that going over. You know, there was a number of members of Goon Squad posturing. Oh, does Zeri get this turret? Very close. Gengar does manage to clear out the wave. Going to go for the Featherstorm now. Does not find the root, though, with the Blade Caller. And Bam's going to trade back with his own ultimate. Gets the Xayah down quite low. GVG going in. Doesn't find the chains that time. But yeah, I mean, it was very tense towards that topside river as the Goons were hanging around, seeing if they could contest, but they ended up just being spectators. The Shelly does go over to the Gremlins. That's going to be in Pine's back pocket now. We got another dragon in a couple minutes.
Yeah, and he really has dealer's choice as to where this goes, because both the mid and bot outer turrets are about to fall on their own merits here, just from the power of the laners. So really can break super deep into the side of Goon Squad here. It's just a really rough position for Necromancer and the squad as a whole.
For a play. No follow-up, though, right now for the jungler. Is going to go in, find the charge, but not much else. Bam did utilize the ghost, so I guess that is, you know, still worthwhile, arguably, for Necromancer, able to get out that summoner spell. As GVG find a chain over the wall. Pine waiting in the wings as well. Here for the follow-up. Distortion. Decker ignited, burning down. There's the electrocute. And there is kill number 5 for GVG, who does have that Dark Seal stacking up as well.
Fully stacked now at 10 there, crewman. That is a very powerful LeBlanc. I'm curious, how much AP does she have? Oh, only 250 AP before 17 minutes, crewman.
Good, good. Where are we going here? Shelly?
Pine is having a time.
He is. Yes. He was. He is going to be dead, I think, in just a moment here, as he did already use the EQ combo kill given over to Finch. So that is going to be number 2 now for the Orianna, and Shelly is not going to be able to get any turret damage. Does stall the minion wave out for a second there, and does buy some time for the rest of the team on the side of the Gremlins to secure the mid-tier 1. So it does go down in the end.
Bot tier 1 as well, crewman.
What was that?
Bot tier 1 as well.
Oh, yeah, that's going to be the Zeri, I imagine, who took that one down.
Yeah, looks like it, but boy, I feel like that's a little bit of a missed opportunity there. Pine could have absolutely held on to that and used it for turret 2, but by the same token, I've seen worse uses than that, so at the end of the day, could be worse.
Gonna go for the execute, does manage to put the troll into the meat grinder. So Soul finding the outplay in the top side. There's the power of the Hullbreaker, giving him those extra resistances. Wins out in the 1v1. Dragon alive right now. On the other side of the map, an Urgot with teleport. Trundle does have it as well when he respawns in about 20 seconds. So for the side of the Gremlins, it's stalling is the name of the game here. They just want to prevent their opponents from securing this objective before Dark has the opportunity to teleport in. That was a little bit dangerous from the LeBlanc, but does manage to distort back. The objective started up now by the Goon Squad. Pine and the rest of the squad getting pushed out now towards the southern part of this river. As it looks like this dragon...
It's stolen,
Pine gets in there, he steals it away, and now the Trundle's up, and it's a massive monsoon from the Janna, right in the thick of things. The Jarvan is going to get taken down. First casualty of this fight, but Gengar is going to get taken down on the other side. Nobody peeling for the Xayah as the Trundle makes his presence felt, but does go down as well as double kill over to Finch. who is still alive, dueling against the LeBlanc, who is just a little bit too powerful. As GVG wins out in that battle once again. And now Necromancer getting skated on as Bam moves forward, and Soul not able to do anything to help out his jungler. On the run now, the last surviving Goon. Can he make it out to safety? Vidyarthi on the chase. The Jada has so much move speed, denies the Urgot his attempt at trading another one back. And that's going to be the bot lane standing strong for the Gremlins.
Yeah, Bam was untouched in the early parts of that fight, crewman. Sitting there in the pit, 3 or 4 members of Goon Squad in the area, hovering around that opening, and nobody walked in. Nobody touched the Zeri. And at 2 items, yeah, it's not any AD. She doesn't have a whole lot of, 1 auto attack power, but she's still very ahead of the curve. And at this point, with the fact that not many resistances exist on the other side, with the fact that she's untouched and can free fire forever, she does eventually churn out that damage, and it's only going to get worse as she starts moving into AD items, so Goon Squad has to start actually targeting this area in these fights.
GVG 2 levels up on Necromancer. Look at that damage from the chain. Ignite already committed as well. Necromancer going to be pushed off of his own red buff temporarily. So now we see the team moving over, but now Gengar potentially in trouble as GVG finds another chain, but not able to stand and fight against the Xayah, who is starting to get a little bit more powerful. Still not quite out of that 2-item spike just yet as Gengar, but strong enough to push the LeBlanc away.
Yeah, this LeBlanc is so scary, though, for anyone who gets caught out alone. 20 stacks on the Magi's, working very close to that 3rd item here, crewman. Look at that damage onto Finch. That was just the distortion forward.
Absolutely. A menace right now is this LeBlanc, as Necromancer going to get pushed away from the Scuttle Crab. That is going to get secured by Dark and the rest of the Gremlins, as Pine still playing aggressively, trying to get in the face of Necromancer here, but once again, the Goon Squad rotating over to defend their jungler and those camps.
I have to ask, crewman, was it just me, or did you see that Scuttle Crab doing its best Kane impression there?
It did go into the wall for a minute there. Yes, I did notice that as well.
Okay.
Clearly that was a Scuttle Crab main, as they do have a subreddit. Let's check it out, guys. If anybody who's uninitiated, Necromancer. Yeah, the team, can they save him this time around? The answer is no, as Bam does pick up number 5 on the Zeri. And would you look at that? Look at what's alive right here.
Oh, man, crewman. This is real unfortunate for Goon Squad. And Necromancer, I understand. You're in your jungle, you have your Urgot right there. But this is a poke team, crewman. Or not a poke team, a pick team. They will pick you, and good grief, that damage onto Gengar. Regardless of whether you are a tank or an ADC, you will just disappear. And with you disappearing, as the jungler, disappears your chances of contesting that very important worm. Now, 21 to 10, 9k gold advantage, and I think the writing's on the wall for this game 1.
I think it might be. GVG getting the Featherstorm out there with just a distortion, just a single rotation from the LeBlanc. I think that kind of summarizes the state of this game pretty nicely, just in and of itself.
Yeah, and this split push now from the Trundle, Not So Dark, having completed the Trinity Force. Boy, the gates are closing. They have to find some fight. I think their only option here is around this Drake in 40 seconds. They have a little bit of vision, crewman, but boy, there's not a whole lot of angle and not a whole lot of hope in terms of who's strong enough to actually step up and carry these fights.
Certainly agree. GVG is going to get stunned into the wall here, and Poppy's going to be steadfast with her presence. The shockwave, though, is not going to land onto the enemy mid laner. Finch just sombreros it, and that is a big tool down for this potential dragon fight as well. I think with that down, maybe the Goons just make the call to not contest.
They certainly could. This is not sole point, but the problem is LeBlanc is massive as Pine. You can't be there, my friend.
He's going to get Bramble Smash backwards, taking a lot of damage here from the Zai. Does manage to flash away and stay alive. Decker eating a lot of damage there from the Zeri as well, who is still untouched once again as Pina puts the bird in a cage, but does have Featherstorm and Flash as Gengar uses everything to get out to safety, and LeBlanc still manages to hunt him down, but the formerly deathless LeBlanc does actually end up giving over her shutdown, and it is the Poppy who picks that one up, and it is still a trade 1-for-1, and map control over to Gremlins as they move back to take the Drake.
Yeah, they'll get the Drake here. They'll put some pressure on Soul as Bam is rotating over. Shutdown does hurt, and especially more than the shutdown is the loss of those Magi stacks, because that's a lot of AP that's going to take a goodly while to stack back up here. And Bam and Dark have to be a little bit careful, but at the end of the day, crewman, it's still a gold lead that's slowly growing. The map still
it is
not opening up at all for Goon Squad. They have one turret in the entire game.
Yeah, they really have not been able to get too much going, unfortunately. We saw, like, one solo kill in the top lane for Soul. But, you know, it's been a lot of trading, and a lot of trading down for the Goon Squad. Not getting the better end of these trades whatsoever.
They might be able to find Pina split pushing alone here with two members in the area, but, I mean, even the Urgot, who has all of these split push items, who has the capacity to duel out of anyone on this team with that Hull Breaker, is completely scared of the Jarvan, of the jungler. So, real rough spot, and I think mentally, GSG just doesn't have any
onto the Necromancer. Does manage to get the charge on the Jarvan into the wall, but the help is not coming this time for the Poppy. Does manage to evict 2 with the Keeper's Verdict, but it is not going to be enough to keep the tiny Yordle alive. 5v4 on the map once again. No neutral objective this time for the side of the Gremlins to secure in the Aftermath, so that's a silver lining, at least, for the Goon Squad, but they do not have control over their own jungle, and as you mentioned previously, Ols, their avenues back into this game seem to be very few in number.
I do believe on the top of the screen there, crewman, we just watched Gengar lose half their health.
Oh, GVG losing a little bit more than half of his health there as well.
Very true.
Let's stay alive. We'll stall out this siege a little bit as the Nature's Grasp now is going to come out. Does manage to lock down the Zeri. Finch moving in. Maokai Bramble Smash back. Bam Flash away trying to stay alive, but will not be able to do so as the feathers from Gengar able to take down that Zeri. A nice blade collar as well. Gets the double root. Pina going to be the next to fall. And a nice counter punch as, the snipe from Soul gets a 3rd kill. Over to the side of the Goon Squad. Signs of life flashing forward. Finds the flip. Dark in trouble. Charging towards the wall. Poppy doesn't get the stun. It does not matter. As a double kill over to Soul, and 4 in quick succession for the Goons.
Yeah, some desperately needed energy for Goon Squad here. And now the question becomes, what can they take with this 30-second timer they have until everybody's back on the map? They need this gold in their pocket. They need to turn a little bit of this energy around, and 6,000 is the gold lead right now. With this turret going down, it'll get closer to about 5. That's a lot of gold back in pocket and will help make these fights better. They just need to keep finding that angle here, crewman.
Yeah, I mean, it was 10 just a couple of minutes ago, so just with that one play, Goon Squad Gaming have actually managed to cut the gold lead in half. They are still up against a Mountain Soul point. That is extremely threatening. Particularly, you know, it's going to be very strong on the Trundle, and the Jarvan might start to build up some resistances here. Pina mostly just going for health and attack damage in the build so far. But, you know, Mountain Soul, often considered, I think, also to be one of the stronger ones that you can acquire. Yeah,
that shield is just so powerful. Necromancer might be in a little bit of trouble here, getting caught out in his own jungle.
Blue buff going to get sniped there by the LeBlanc. A little bit of insult. Does the injury follow it up? Necromancer able to stay alive for now, and GVG not willing to chase any further.
And doesn't need to chase any further, though, because they're starting to set up this cordon. They're pushing GSG away from the Baron Pit. And as they can do that, that means that they can buy time for these wards in the red buff jungle to die. So there's no flanking available for Soul, and they can just go ahead and take this Baron. And in fact, they might just go ahead and do it. Vision be damned.
Yeah, they are just going to go ahead and start this one up, and known to us is the fact that Goon Squad are not in position right now whatsoever. Poppy is not anywhere near this Baron Pit. And they are burning it down. It's down to less than 50% health. It looks like this one is just gone, Alls.
Yeah, that's a little bit strange here to me that Goon Squad didn't try and force in at all there. You're coming off the heels of a fight that you absolutely won, where you took this team that was way ahead and just completely shredded their confidence, and you don't contest the very next objective on the map? That just feels like you're letting the momentum slide.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really sure what happened there. And maybe it was for the side of the Goon Squad. They did have a little bit of vision in the area. Maybe that like gave them some false confidence that their opponents weren't actually on the objective. But as we know, that was not the case. And now the gold lead growing once again in favor of the Gremlins. Mountain Soul point going to be on the table in just 5 short seconds. Pine going to be denied there by the Steadfast Friend. Still going to go in for the Cataclysm. Is going to get Flash ult out from the Xayah once again. Jarvan's still alive here on the front line for now. Maokai trying to root him up, but the EQ is too strong. Gets the Jarvan out to safety. Now Soul is going to get taken down. The Hullbreaker not helping him out in this instance as the Shockwave is decent onto 2, but the side of Goon Squad have already lost 2 members. It's going to be the Xayah taken down next, as it is just an absolute wipe in favor of the Gremlins. They run down these last couple of remaining goons. Finch on the Orianna, the last survivor, but not for long, as underneath the tier 3 they go. The ace does come through, and I think this surely should be the game.
Yeah, absolutely there, crewman. There's nothing left to keep this base alive, and a valiant effort from Goon Squad, but you have to pick your fights a little bit more intelligently, and letting Conduit set the tempo there just feels like a waste of a decision.
Yeah, I mean, they did have to fight there, right? Because you can't just give over Mountain Soul and expect to come back in the game after that. You can't just give it over for free. So they had to go for some kind of fight. In the end, it was actually Pine initiating that one on the J4, as he had done so many times already in that game. I think, definitely the right call from the Gremlin jungler, identifying that they were stronger, they were in the favorable position, and his job was just to get those cooldowns out from the enemy carries, and was very successful in doing that.
Yeah, I mean, it was just good play by that Jarvan, all things told there. Really, I don't think he had any particular weaknesses in that game, except maybe the one Rift Herald charge down the mid lane.
That was, I think, a little bit of a whoopsie, and not entirely sure what happened there either. It definitely looked pretty funny on our screens, but, it still kind of ended up working out for them, even in that play, right? It wasn't a highlight for Pine necessarily, but the side of the Gremlins were still able to secure 2 turrets off the back of Shelly's misadventures there in the mid lane, so it was definitely a pretty one-sided, I think, this first game, even from the early minutes. Pine active early on as well, remember, able to assist his mid laner and getting that first blood onto Finch's Orianna that had been doing so well this season up until this point. So, I mean, is that where the POG votes are going, Alls? What do you think? Over to Pine, or do you have somebody else in mind?
Yeah, I think it's pretty clearly this jungler had so much of an effect on the map, was everywhere, touched everything. That's the mark of a winner, and I think you got to give it there.
Yeah, I mean, definitely an honorable mention to GVG on the LeBlanc there. Was at one point, I think, 7-0 with the maxed out Medjais, so definitely had a fantastic game playing into that Orianna as well. But yeah, that's the #1 ranked jungler in the league, according to Trucks, picking up another POG in this game #1. We'll see if the Gremlins are going to be able to make it to 2-0, or if the Goon Squad have something else to say about it. Don't go anywhere, guys. We'll be right back.
aqueles que se perderam.
Hoje eles a chamam de exilada, noutro tempo defendeu com sua espada. Tantas injustiças hoje serão julgadas, de batalha seu corpo tão cheio de marcas, yeah, yeah. Como todo humano segue lutar de falhas, nessa guerra nunca deixe vibrando sua espada. Seguindo onde sua alma foi estressada, agora recolhe pedaços com consciência amargurada. Essa coxa há muito tempo foi selada, se está no meu caminho, mexe cai, mas sou bastante parecido com variação de como pode ser usada. Nunca siga os seus passos nem minha levada, na estrada sua mente pode ser marcada. No rugido do andério, cortando na luta, o fio ganhando, aumentando a sequência de lacerações, golpes que vão sendo cronometrados pela minha espada em uma speed que é impossível de prever. E isso é um Musashi ganhando, sou o Kojiro inigualável sob runa e terra, enquanto a maldade insiste em permanecer. Eu vou achar você, quem me deu essas ordens fez eu me perder. Eles vão perecer, ela não vai ceder. Libere o poder da sua espada, ela nunca vai se curvar, por isso a jornada desse caminho ela trilhou. Guerreiros porque aquele esmiuçou, em mim você nunca acreditou. E agora o jogo virou enviada em uma missão que ela não poderia mais completar. E agora recolhe os pedaços de sua honra, talvez ela queira voltar no tempo. E eu te disse aqui que com aceleração na build cê não vai conseguir. Eu conto 1, 2, 3, o inimigo sumir. A espadachim é Kanban, não tem pra nenhum master. Hoje eles a chamam de exilada, noutro tempo defendeu com sua espada. Tantas injustiças hoje serão julgadas, de batalha seu corpo tão cheio de marcas, yeah, yeah. Na ultimate o vento corre pela ameaça pra torre, tendo um monstro que Noxus criou. A gente alcançou, sei que tu cansou e tu se superou. Top que garou, yeah. Caçando heróis só por diversão, o verdadeiro poder não vem vão. Ouça a respiração, a Demon Slayer eles vão enfrentar. Getsuga neles e os céus eu vou rasgar. Não tem escapatória aqui, asas quebradas vão ressurgir. A chamam de exilada, noutro tempos defendeu com sua espada. Tantas injustiças hoje serão julgadas, de batalha seu corpo tão cheio de marcas, yeah, yeah.
Eles não podem sair impunes.
All right, everybody, welcome back. We did have a little bit of an extended break there as the teams did need to finish up playing this game number 2 before we could get into the casting side of it. And we do have our drafts here. Looks like we're swapping sides for this second game, as is procedure here in the BOL League all. So Conduit Gremlins over to the blue side now. Goon Squad Gaming the red. And what's jumping out at you immediately with these drafts?
Well, I'm looking at this crewman, and I'm loving the Garen. We don't see Garen enough. Garen's so incredibly fun. Just love to see him on the Rift, but outside of that, this is a very interesting Conduit draft here, because it doesn't exactly show a lot of what's going on. The Amumu likely in the jungle, but we've seen a little bit of Camille support recently, enough so that it's actually showing up in the support tab nowadays. So
absolutely
could technically flex these champions around a bit, and I'm sure that threw off some of GSG's drafting, especially with the way that they went through this this pick order here.
Yeah, I think that is definitely a fair assessment. You know, I think I did hear something about Camille support nerfs coming in the future, but she is absolutely alive and well for right now. The Amumu is the second most played for Pine over there in the jungle position, so I think definitely pretty likely that he is going into the jungle, that much at least we can be pretty confident in. And interesting to note as well that the Conduit Gremlins are not at all bothered by Finch's Orianna, letting it through all the way to the second phase of picks there, locked away on R4 for Goon Squad Gaming. And why would they be concerned about it, right? They just defeated it in the last game, so they're just going to let Finch pilot that one for, what is it now, the 7th game in a row, I think?
I believe you said 7 was last game, so this would be 8.
Something like that.
But yeah, after starting
of,
2 and 5 and ending 5 and 7, yeah, Finch's Orianna, not particularly scary to this Conduit team. Any other thoughts here before we go ahead and hop onto the Rift here, crewman?
Well, I kind of forgot to do this for game number 1. You know, the slightly different run of show that we've got going on tonight threw me off a little bit. But overall, Alls, do you have a preference between these drafts? Do you have, you know, like one more than the other in any sense?
I think I lean ever so slightly in the Conduit direction just because they have a more coherent team fight team. Yes, the Camille and Garen both want to split push, but I feel like Camille has more teamfight value than Garen. And I also feel like the Volibear doesn't have as much value in those fights as a Mumu. Senna Seraphine also concerns me. As you may remember, these 14-6 changes severely nerfed Senna's souls from 8.3% on minion kill to 2.6 if she's the one killing them. So that cuts down her scaling very, very badly, and I think it's going to make this bot lane incredibly miserable. Even if the Seraphine is the one to be taking that farm, I don't think it's a particularly fun matchup into Caitlyn Zyra.
Yeah, I think that's definitely fair, right? Caitlyn Zyra can play very, very aggressively, although Senna Seraphine is also a lane that we've, you know, seen historically many times, right? It can be very powerful in the right situation. You know, you do get a lot of sustain with this duo, and, you know, the Senna, yeah, her farming, the farming variety of the Senna has been nerfed, but we all know that this champion still scales obscenely well into the later stages of the game. So if they can survive the lane with the built-in sustain that they have in the kits, then I think the Senna Seraphine could pan out towards the later stages. But I definitely think that they will kind of need to find themselves in a decent position towards the mid game, right? Because that bot duo is going to be a very important part of this team's damage. You know, you got the Volibear and the Garen towards the top side. You really need your bot lane to be able to provide that consistent DPS to really win out in the team fights.
Yeah, absolutely. But that being said, crewman, I do believe we can go ahead and hop onto the Rift here and get this show on the road.
Let's do it. Once again, we got Conduit Gremlins on the blue side this time around, guys. And we do, of course, have Goon Squad Gaming now on the red. It looks like it is, in fact, going to be that Camille top lane. Also, none of that Camille support shenanigans this time around.
Nah, it would have been fun, but given the fact that Zyra is on the map, not particularly likely. Does look like we have a change of personnel here as Not So Dark back in the bot lane, and Jun in the top lane. So this is their full roster once again.
Yeah, so back to the starting five for the Conduit Gremlins. Obviously, the fact that they did have to play with that E7 in game number one did not deter them or slow them down even a little bit, as they are now on that 7-game winning streak, still undefeated here in Season 11. Seeing if they can keep it going all the way through to the end of Week 4 here and give us the quick 2-0 here tonight is going to be what they are looking for. On the other side, though, let's try and help out Goon Squad here and craft a little bit of a game plan if they're going to put a stop to this runaway train that is the Conduit Gremlins. How do you think they really are going to need to go about it?
Step one, Finch has to be relevant on this Orianna. You can't fall as far behind as he did in that last game. You can't let GVG become a menace. Step two, you need to establish Soul as a split pusher. You need Jun to fall behind early and hard enough that the Garen can continue to pressure them in the side lane and force 4v4 teamfights where the Camille isn't there. And I think beyond that, you have to keep this bot lane safe. You can't let the early game prowess of a Zyra Caitlyn lane take over Gengar and Decker. You need them to stay at least staggeringly close to even.
Well, also, it sounds like this Volibear is going to have his paws full in this early game. Lots of different lanes that he's going to want to try to juggle. He's going to be starting on the bottom side of the map here. Now, we know the Volibear is extremely powerful, extremely potent in the early game. So wherever Necromancer does decide to prioritize, should be able to make a large impact there.
Yeah,
Flash forward, but Yarthy looking for the roots. Not quite going to be able to find them as Decker manages to flash away. They're actually going to eat a turret shot there and is just going to die, I think. The last auto attack. Oh, the summon Airy is barely going to secure that first blood. Yarthy, a little bit of a whoopsie there, just walking into turret range. Ends up giving over first blood to the Seraphine.
Yeah, that's a little bit unfortunate. Almost looked like there was some technical issues going on there with how they walked forward without casting anything, without doing anything, but real unfortunate there. An unforced error that puts Dark in a little bit of an awkward position and does give a lot of that breathing room that this bot lane needed, in my opinion, to let this Senna scale.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly the start that you want as the Senna Seraphine, sort of nullifying that Caitlyn Zyra pressure before they can really get started with that early death. But look at this, Pine making his way towards this bottom lane. The wave in a very awkward position right now for the Goon Squad. Duo the flash for the bandage toss. Gengar is just going to get taken down, and immediately it is going to be the Gremlins finding one back in the bot lane.
Yeah, re-stabilizing that lane. Good gank by Pine, good flash there, and that does mean that Pine can continue to look around this bot lane with both summoner spells burned, no flashes available, and the TP down as well. So another gank here in the near future to take this Seraphine down and force another recall would be incredibly punishing.
Absolutely. Pine just going to secure the Scuttle Crab for now. Going to move back towards the Grubs. Finish up is clear. As Volibear able to secure the top crab, but not able to make his presence felt yet in any of these lanes.
Little bit underwhelming through 4 minutes, but still early days, and Volibear is good with those first 3 levels, but as you know, shines so incredibly well with that level 6, even though the Ohmwrecker passive has been weakened considerably, still does quite a good job in setting up those dives and helping to reset turret aggro to make them go off without a hitch. So if he doesn't make any plays here early, expect that level 6 to be when he really turns on the jets.
GVG been landing a lot of these never moves here towards the mid lane. Finch running low on mana as well, just looking to get this wave in. Vidyarthi, though, wrapping around. Another never move going to land onto the Orianna, and Finch might just be dead here. Does still have the flash. Is he even going to use it? The roots are not even going to be needed as GVG, just another Death's Hand, and the Orianna is just going to be executed.
And I actually agree with not burning the flash there. You made the mistake of being caught in the never move again after having been caught in the never move repeatedly. And by the time that ticked out and Finch could actually flash again, he was low enough that GVG would have just follow flash, and it would have just been a kill with flash trade, which benefits the team with the gap closing jungler of Amumu here. So good call by Finch, just admitting defeat and taking the death with a bit of grace.
Yeah, I suppose so. That's a good point there, Alls. But at the same time, it is reminiscent of game number 1, right? Where the Orianna, neglecting or choosing not to flash with that early gank, giving over a very early lead to her lane opponent, to GVG, who some consider to be the strongest mid laner in the league, as the first dragon will go over to the side of the Goon squad.
Well, we do have some wonderful advanced stats, and according to those advanced stats, he is currently up close to the top, but as you said, not all opinions have crystallized into that direction quite yet. But with the record that Conduit is putting forward, and with the play that they've shown in to finish today, it certainly seems that way as they're looking for another.
Absolutely, Pine there to lock down that Orianna, who does still have the flash, but once again, is just not going to use it. I mean, yeah, I think again that time there was really nowhere for the Orianna to go. No matter which direction you flash, the Amumu and the Swain are already on top of you. You were just dead in that situation, but this is continuing now to be the side of the Gremlins, getting more of a lead early on. Gengar getting ignited a little bit down here towards the bot side, but Volibear in the area. Pine also on this side of the map, but the Volibear is going to be the first to the play as the center root will land onto the Zyra. Does get both of them as Dark with the 90 caliber net, trying to create a little bit more space, and the Ghost from the Caitlyn is going to get her back underneath the turret. Lots of summoners having to be expended down here, but the bot lane for the Gremlins will survive that attempt.
Yeah, really awkward unforced error there by Not So Dark, flashing into the center root, which I think if he hadn't done that, wouldn't have had to use the flash at all. Just walk away from the Volibear, use that 90 caliber net once the center root has timed out, and you're out clean. So it does leave a bit of an opportunity here for Necromancer when he ticks over to that level 6 to start thinking about a dive here, especially if they can get Finch to roam down, find a good timer with that command Shockwave to really lock down Dark and Vidyarthi and get Gengar and Deku guys super far ahead.
Yeah, definitely. The Volibear did obviously commit his own flash for that play as well, but with the power of the Volibear ultimate, absolutely could still look to set up something down there. We'll have to see if that is a play that does come through for the side of the Goon squad, as they did manage to secure that first dragon earlier on, but the Grubs were given over to the side of the Gremlins in trade.
3 Grubs taken so far does make it very easy to get those Kevins again for Jun here. Make that split pushing incredibly powerful. I wouldn't be entirely surprised if they spent a lot of resources in trying to deny that second wave of Grubs when it spawns in just a couple of moments here.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, it would be really, really threatening with this Camille especially. Be able to do so much work in the side lane with all 6 Grubs if they do manage to acquire them. They're going to be spawning in about 1 minute's time. Camille going to go ahead and get off that reset. Not quite with the first completed item just yet. Does have the Tiamat, though, building towards it at a reasonable pace.
Yeah, isn't too far behind on the Garen, and Garen loves that early game, loves the early pressure that he can get out with the Q and with the E to just burn down damage early before Camille really has the ability to churn out those Qs of her own. So a little bit disappointing for Soul that there's not more lead. As
the Encore does connect onto the Zyra, and that is going to be too much CC. Vidyarthi goes down. Kill number 2 for Gengar on the Seraphine. Now Necromancer going to get seed up. Pine flashes for the double curse of the Sad Mummy, and GVG going to go into the Demonic Ascension as well. Pine, though, almost taken down, but will manage to survive. And GVG, though, is going to have to back away from this very menacing Garen, who does have ultimate, but Soul going for the teleport. Doesn't have the Ignite. Flashes forward, will be able to get the execution onto the enemy jungler, but now June is here on the follow, manages to take down the Orianna. Soul hoping to get one more, but he's not able to take down GVG, who just had the ult running for that entire fight, and it will end up being a 3-for-1, and it's going to be the Gremlins on top.
Yeah, Demonic Ascension is one of those ultimates where the moment you see it go down, you need to leave. You don't have to leave the fight entirely, but you need to get out of the way long enough for that ult to tick down, because as long as that exists, Swain gets so many combat stats, he gets so much resistance to actually dying because of the healing that it provides, that you're basically never going to win in a 1-versus-1 fight. Decker, this is dangerous.
Yeah, was very aggressive, was hoping to maybe pick off GVG before the Swain was able to reset, but couldn't chase underneath the turret and did extend pretty far there. Would have been exposed to a potential gank if there was anybody in the area to punish, but the Senna will be okay as the Grubs are going to get started up here. The Moomoo's on the opposite side of the map, so Pina actually not looking to go for a contest on these at the current time. But the Zyra actually has moved up, so Vidyarthi going to manage to push Necromancer off of those Grubs for now.
Yeah, despite the numbers advantage, not particularly worried about moving very quickly here. And I think it'll be fine. Amumu not particularly concerned, and will go for the Drake instead, so we are just going to see a trade 3 for 3 in terms of these Grubs. I would have liked to have seen Conduit put a little bit more pressure on this, maybe try and engage that split push of Jun just a little bit. But at the end of the day, it's a perfectly reasonable macro decision to go ahead and go for the Drake here. Start stacking towards the inevitable soul, and with Mountain and Cloud off the map, there are plenty of good ones to choose from here, and it will be Infernal. That's an incredibly powerful soul for a Swain.
Absolutely. GVG as well with the first completed item in the game, has the Malignance online already.
Looking down at the bot side, we might see a dive here onto Gengar as Panay looking in as the Curse of the Sad Mummy as well. This is a very dead Gengar.
Inch here, but the Seraphine is going to go down before the Orianna arrives. Pina is going to get traded back because he took a bunch of turret shots there in exchange for setting up that dive onto the Seraphine. So it does end up being a 1-for-1, but the extra cooldown expended there by the Goon squad as Finch did use the teleport down towards that lane.
And the kill going over to Finch doesn't feel particularly great for Goon squad. Yeah, Finch has been, a major tool in these wins in the past, but at the moment, he's 1-3-1. He's so incredibly far behind his opposing member here that it's not even funny, and just a single kill onto a jungler isn't going to be enough to bring that deficit back.
Yeah, definitely the case, and, the side of the Goon squad, able to at least get that one kill back, but the fact that the Seraphine did die and miss out on the wave, and the fact that Orianna wasn't there to catch mid meant that not only were they down summoners, but they also ended up losing out on some farm overall, right? They weren't able to farm every lane on the back end of that play, so, the lead not too significant just yet, only about 1,000 gold in favor of the Gremlins, but certainly it feels like they have been on the front foot so far in this game number 2.
Yeah, especially when you look down at the items, 4 completed items to 1 here, crewman. And some of that is down to back timing. Finch hasn't backed since reaching enough for their second item. Volibear has been out on the map for a long while, but still, that's a lot of combat power that they don't have over the next few minutes until they get those backs off, and it may be that that's what makes the difference here.
Interesting choice there from Pine on the Amumu to go for the Liandry's first item. So not wanting to go for any tank stats, just wanting actually that extra damage on the sad little mummy. What do you think of that choice?
Okay, as a competitive choice, it's bad. As an individual choice, it's incredibly funny, and it's incredibly bold, and I love it for Pine. You have the pressure advantage. You are absolutely winning all the fights that matter here as a team. You have the momentum behind you after a crushing Game 1 victory. Why not go for the AP Amumu? Why not have a little bit of fun here? Especially if you're going to go for a dive, you might as well make sure everyone's a kill.
Oh, here he comes, the AP Amumu. He does have the ultimate, not going to expend it just yet. He's going to find the Banish Toss, flashes, does get the 2-man ult, and there is just no counterplay for this GSG bot lane. They will get wiped off the map. Finch not in time to save them. And that turret, that is going to be first brick going over to the Caitlyn as well. And now the gold lead is going to start to expand a little bit in the Gremlins' favor. Looking for a play on a GVG, but the demon can ascend if he would like to. He's going to do so now. As the Malignants, remember as well, to try and burn through this Volibear's health bar. He's going to flash forward on top of Finch and execute the Clockwork Lady once again. Thine with the rotation over is going to be able to help take down the Volibear as well. Double kill over to the Swain, and absolutely, it's going to be the Conduit Gremlins on the road to their 8th consecutive win.
Yeah, and look in the bot lane, Dark here, with the pressure of the bot lane rotating over, gets a second turret. Because why not? It's not like he's going to be pressured. It's not like there's anybody on the map right now that can threaten him. Finch is dead. Gengar and Decker Guy are so far behind that they're basically cannon minions to him, and Soul is fully locked up in the top side. It's just a game of resources, and right now, GSG's starting on turn 1, while Conduit has had 50 turns to develop their empire.
Yeah, it is not looking very even so far. As, yeah, it's like Ancient Era versus Industrial right now is kind of how it feels. As at least Soul, has been able to put on a decent amount of pressure in this 1v1 in the top lane, is up about 30 CS. But it's, that's just not really enough. That's not a big enough advantage to actually do anything with, to actually create any real pressure, and the Garen, he does have the teleport to try and go for these map movements and try and help out the team, right? But that's going to mean you have even less power, if you do want to play for a side lane win condition. And it just feels like the Goon squad are running out of options already. It's still relatively early on in this game, but they're floundering.
And this is one of those points where I would have loved to see something that's a bit more team fight oriented from Soul. The Malphite, the Ornn, something in that vein that could, say, okay, I'm going to cede side lane pressure. I'm never going to be the one to create the tempo in the top lane, but I'm going to make it so that you can't afford to ignore my TP, and I'm going to make myself relevant, and I'm going to salvage fights even from far behind.
Yeah, as we can see, the side of the Goon squad electing to just give over that first Infernal Dragon, going for the cross map. They will be able to secure their first turret of the game. So some much needed gold going into those Goon squad pockets. But with the Infernal Soul on the table, as we did have some connection issues, part of the reason why it took us so long to get into this second game. But thankfully, since we are working with the replay file, we won't actually have to deal with the pauses, which is very nice. But with the Infernal Soul on the table, it just feels like that trade is less good for the side of Goon Squad than it would otherwise be.
Yeah, the plus side is that there's still plenty of runway, especially with that first Drake having been taken by Goon Squad. There's no less than 9 minutes until Soul is potentially on the map. Has plenty of time for them to create a foothold. The problem is they don't have any real anchors to step off from. The Garen, sure, he's up about 30 CS, he's fairly even in terms of kills, but he's only going to be side lane pressure. Necromancer didn't get off super well in the early game. Orianna is so incredibly far behind, it's unreal. Gengar in a very similar boat, so there's not a whole lot of options here other than just praying for a mistake. That's not the mistake you want to see. Decker Guy just eliminated from the map.
GVG said, "You will not move." And Decker was like, okay, I guess I'll die then.
Yeah, 1.2 seconds to die and 2.5 seconds to CC. Very reasonable.
Yeah. I mean, Senna, she is a very squishy champion, right? That is the champion's one weakness, is she does die very quickly if you do manage to get on top of her. So, good move there from the Gremlins in the mid lane, able to find that pick, take down the mid tier 1. GVG now going to move on over into the top lane. Soul thinking about going for a little bit of a play up there, but again, no ignite. P-Nate, did he get that red buff?
Yes, he did.
Oh my goodness. He might have given his own life for it though, but no, what's this?
Fine.
Dark moving over, finds the bandage toss, the two-man ultimate from the Amumu. He's living for so long without a tank item, and he will eventually go down as the team was not quite able to get in there to follow up. And now teleport coming in behind as Finch, ooh, the shockwave's gonna get flashed away from. Good reaction there from Dark to keep himself alive. Now GVG on the front line just taking up so much damage. Soul trying to get in there. Will be able to bring down the Might of Demacia onto the Zyra, but the Garen now has no way out. He's gonna get traded off, so still a positive fight overall as Goon Squad does manage to go 2 for 1.
Yeah, it's a positive fight overall, but they ended that fight running away in fear from GVG. That's not the kind of energy you want to bring to a one fight. And I have to remind you, crewman, this is a 4v5 right now. Jun is having connection issues and is just sitting in base, so this is an extended 4v5 and will remain an extended 4v5 until Jun gets himself fixed up here. That's a lot of pressure on GVG, and he's rising to the occasion.
I have to imagine that was the reason why we didn't actually see June in game number 1 was because of those connection issues, probably, right? Thought maybe that they had them sorted out here for the second game. That does not appear to be the case. So I do like that you point that out because, yeah, that does add an extra layer to this whole situation, that last team fight especially.
And looking at GVG 4-0-5 right now. I want to check that gold differential up 1,500. Not actually the biggest lead in the game, as that goes over to Pine Foimal, sitting at over 2,000 lead over Necromancer. Good grief. It's just everywhere, crewman, that this Conduit squad is taking advantages.
Yeah.
I really, you know, I've seen a lot of games of League of Legends, but I can't exactly see.
Mummy.
Ooh, Gengar.
Ace in the hole.
I can't see where Goon Squad starts finding a way back into this.
It's looking pretty difficult, that's for sure. We've got another Infernal Dragon in about 20 seconds. You know, that could be an angle if they do find a team fight around this objective somehow. That could be a way back in. And again, they are 5v4 right now, as the Camille is still AFK in the base due to connection issues. But GVG and Soul just hanging out towards this top side for now. Teleport for the Garen. No teleport for the Swain. Is Pine looking for Finch, though, in the Silent. The Shockwave does connect onto the carries, but the team is just not going to be here in time. The Orianna is going to get taken down. And, oh, Necromancer coming in here, though. Does find some CC onto Dark. The Caitlyn almost taking out a little bit more damage is all they need. The Encore does connect, and just barely. The Seraphine does manage to connect the skill shot, and a double kill, actually, over to Gengar as Pine on the run is going to get slowed up, and the Amumu, it looks like, will get taken down here as well. So there is a counterpunch for the side of Goon Squad. They might be back in this one, but oh, look who's returned from being AFK.
Jun back on the map will be able to respond to Soul, and this lets GVG move out onto the map again. Still a little bit awkward, doesn't have that demonic extension, doesn't have any team members to back him up right now, but he doesn't care. He's gonna go for this.
Doesn't even have ults. He's just going in anyways. I mean, he is the highest level out of all 4 players on this part of the map right now, but not going to overcommit for that one. You know, had the summoner spells, had the ult coming back up soon, but didn't have a smite button, so no way to secure the objective, and there's realistically not a whole lot to gain there for the Swain, so he is going to back away, give over that Infernal Dragon, and we have a much more even game now than it was a couple of minutes ago.
Yeah, down to about a 1,500 gold lead, with a lot of the pressure that was existing kind of stymied by the fact that they were playing man down for a while, crewman, but the pressure still exists. They still have good penetration. They're on the bot side, and Finch in trouble here.
Oh, Vidyarthi misses the root there, unfortunately, and the Shockwave will land onto 2. It's still a lot of damage. The double never move. Oh my god, GVG is really making that look like a point and click. Necromancer on the run. The ace in the hole's gonna headshot the bear. Well, it's not so dark's gone hunting, and he is absolutely coming home with a couple of trophies. Gengar back underneath the tier 2, but they got 5 men on the rift again, and the side of the Goon Squad only have 2.
Hey, you know what's up right now? It's really valuable and also died fairly early in game 1.
What's up, alls?
It would happen to be this Baron, crewman.
Oh, Baron, right.
Yeah, you know, it's kind of valuable. Slightly useful in the game of League of Legends.
Well, Soul is also hoping to be slightly useful in the game of League of Legends, but I don't know if he's going to be successful in that attempt. He's going to get put in a Hextech cage. Ooh. He is almost going to be able to trade one back, but not quite. He does go down. Gengar is here, is going to sing a little bit, and the side of Gremlins don't really care, as another Never Move is going to connect onto 2 people, because of course it does, and the Shockwave is going to be used to little effect. That's going to be Baron for the Gremlins, and our gold lead is back up to around 5k.
Yeah, Gengar very nearly singing the Executioner's song there, as GVG had their number with that Never Move. Just pure luck that the rest of Conduit didn't decide to turn and burn there.
Yeah, the rest of the team was like ready to go back to base. Like, okay, guys, we got the objective, nice work, and GVG's just casually setting up for for more kills. The team just wasn't quite ready to follow up in that particular instance, but
Yeah, you know,
Yeah.
6-0-7 isn't a good enough scoreline. You gotta pad that a little bit. You
Yeah,
gotta
yeah,
earn
and just,
that
you know,
number one spot.
absolutely. Absolutely. And I think he is making a very strong case for himself right now in this one. Let's see what kind of formation does come out with this Baron buff. We got June alone in the side lane right now. Maybe a little bit too alone, potentially. As it can be difficult to get on top of Camille, but good damage coming out from this 2-item Orianna. And now June is going to face check the Volibear. So he is actually going to die. That is going to be a shutdown going over. So on the other side of the map, let's see if the Garen can fare a little bit better. Trying to flash away. Flash follow from GVG. Finds the CC, and the Garen has no way out. So both top laners finding themselves in the death chamber.
Yeah, the problem is Baron minions push faster than regular minions. And Orianna not particularly worried about pushing it quickly there. So they're not actually going to get anything in that top side, whereas looks like GVG is going to get plenty of pressure down there, and I'm not sure that Seraphine and Volley alone is going to be enough to stop him.
Yeah, seems like a tall order. The rest of the team grouped up in the mid lane right now, looking to get some pressure on the mid tier 2, as that's going to be an ace in the hole. It does about half Decker's health bar. Senna on the run, as they don't actually want the turret, they just want to kill Decker. The Senna's going to flash over the wall, and looks like she will actually survive. And meanwhile, Necromancer is able to clear out the mid wave. So maybe a little bit greedy there from the side of the Gremlins. They wanted everything. They ended up with nothing. But they do still have the Baron for about 45 seconds. So another minion wave to work with.
Yeah, see, here what they did was they pulled Necromancer away from GVG. That gives this Swain more time, and the push doesn't matter because they're just going to force it in anyway. They get that tier 2 in the mid lane and prepare for this Drake in 50 seconds. They're going to be in great shape to start looking for that soul point.
They are. They are going to be in an absolutely fantastic position. We can already see a whole bunch of wards towards this red bot side jungle for the side of Conduit Gremlins. They have a whole bunch of control over this area. They're going to get those resets off in time with the empowered recalls. PNA just wanting to secure a bonus Gromp before he does manage to make his way back to the fountain. They're going to be back out onto the map here with very little room for the side of Goon Squad to try and make their way in towards this bot river.
Yeah, you know, you talked about PNA wanting to get that bonus Gromp, and Amumu isn't one of those champions that you think, oh yeah, he's the farming jungler of the century. He's pushing his way towards a Flame Horizon here over Necromancer with how well he's rotated through and how much control this Conduit squad has. It's been next to impossible for Necromancer to rotate through camps nearly as efficiently as PNA has done.
Yeah, been a great night for PNA for sure. You know, remember, was our game 1 POG on the Jarvan as well. And ranked #1 jungler in the league by our content Titan Trucks for good reason, it seems. This is our first time all seeing this guy in action, at least for this season. And yeah, looking like #1 ranked jungler to me.
Yeah, earning their stripes here for sure, crewman. Pushing in towards that bot side of the map is the other jungler, Necromancer. What are you doing up there on the top side, my friend? It's 2 minutes till the Baron. You're going to lose an inhibitor down here. And with a member locked in the base trying to deal with those super minions, you can't contest that Baron at all.
He's looking, he flashes, he finds another ultimate. Where's the follow-up, though? The Amumu, maybe a little bit too ahead of the team, is going to get taken down first. The Zyra ultimate is going to find a knock-up onto 3 as well, but GVG, the strongest member, was not there. Pine getting a bit ahead of himself. I guess that's our fault, though. We cast or cursed him a bit, huh?
Yeah, a little bit. But the death isn't going to amount to a whole ton here. I mean, look at the map. All the waves pushed in deep for Goon Squad. They can't actually get there, but...
Flash stun. The damage should be there. Oh, the blast cone gets the Zyra. Oh, not to safety as Finch on the flank. Looking to pick up these kills as a couple of those Gremlins are going to get taken down, and the Camille no way out either. Not even able to take Finch down. So now that is going to be 4 kills for none over to the side of Goon Squad. GVG off in the side lane, doing a little bit of damage on the tier 2. But once again, the Goon Squad finding a nice counterpunch for themselves.
Yeah, and this is where it starts to get awkward. 1 kill onto the jungler, not the end of the world. 3 kills onto everybody else on the bot side. Now that starts to get bad because now you can see those waves being pushed out for Goon Squad. They're getting this bot turret. They're going to get some pressure onto this mid tier 2. And this is kind of relieving that pressure valve that Conduit had been building up for the past few minutes. As they start to look towards this Baron, they now actually have the opportunity to contest crewman. It's going to be a little bit more fraught for Conduit than they had expected it to be.
Yeah, we absolutely could see a contest coming through here for this objective. It has just spawned onto the map. We do see the Gremlins making their way back out here, trying to establish some control over this topside river. And we do see a Necromancer in the area at the moment. Bot lane coming back from base as I think Decker needed to replenish those wards. But we'll see if the posturing for the Baron is going to get aggressive here, or if the side of the Gremlins are just going to want to wait until this Infernal Dragon spawns to try and secure themselves the soul. GVG says, nope, we're going to fight right now. He pops the Demonic Assumption, moves forward, does find the Never Move on to the jungler. Necromancer is going to be forced to ult over the wall. Flashing forward is GVG. Just wants to put the nail in that coffin right now. They do have Camille going into the back line also. We do have Soul doing the same thing on the other side. Manages to take down the Caitlyn. GVG, though, moving back now to try and deal with this Garen. It's only Garen and Volibear that are left alive. The dive a little bit more successful, you have to say, for the side of the Gremlins. They did manage to go 3 for 1 in that fight, and now they have a wave in the top lane, and Garen and Volibear are still around the Baron. They're not here to defend.
Yeah, that's a really awkward end to this fight for Goon Squad. And a fight that looked like it could have gone well as GVG was being hyper aggressive there, ulting without anyone in range, flashing forward, but it might just result in the end of the game as there's hardly anyone left to defend.
Necromancer just desperately trying to defend these Nexus turrets. The first one is going to go down. GVG has the ultimate back off cooldown again. That's the power of the Malignant. So much ability haste for your ultimate. He finds a Never Move on to the Bear. Necromancer and Soul getting burned down with the respawns come through from Goon Squad. Soul manages to get one onto the top laner with the Demacian Justice. And now GVG, all out of friends here in the enemy base, is going to go to buy himself a moment, but I think the Swain's days are numbered. That is going to be GVG down for a full minute. And potentially one more sign of hope, one more gasp for the side of the Goon Squad as they can make their way back out onto the map once again.
Yeah, clawing against fate here is the Goon Squad, and it sure doesn't feel as bad as game number 1 did. They're only down 5 kills, they're only down 5,000 gold. They still have a little bit of hope, and admittedly, largely, that is due to the big shutdowns that they just picked up, especially that one off of GVG, 1,000 gold in the pocket of Finch. But
that is big.
Still, they are closer. They are having a slightly better showing here. And with a chance to fight around this Drake number 6, they could make this game very, very interesting. Good shockwave to start it off.
Oh, yeah, that is a nice shockwave. Vidyarthi and Dark both chunk down. Necromancer over the wall. Finishes off the plant lady. Steals away that blast cone as well to get himself back into the pit. And a nice move there. It was the side of the Gremlins posturing aggressively around that objective despite being down a member, and they are punished by the Goon Squad. Inferno Soul Point now for both sides.
5 whole minutes until that takes over, crewman, and given the way that this game has been back and forth, and the way that some of these team fights have just absolutely swung wildly in one team's favor, I don't really particularly think we're going to see that 7th Drake spawn. It feels like this game is one fight away from being over.
Could certainly be the case, especially if that fight is won by the Gremlins. They found Decker in the jungle, and the Senna is just going to get cut in half by the Scissor Lady. And now into the Baron pit they go. 5v4 now for the Gremlins, and they are not going to hesitate. They are straight onto this Baron. And for the side of the Goon Squad, they're just not even going to try. They are not going to make the same mistake as their opponents and try to contest from a disadvantaged position. But that does mean you're giving over another Baron. Your top lane inhibitor is already down. It definitely does feel like the Gremlins should have everything that they need to close this one out.
Yeah, I don't particularly love that macro decision here, crewman. Can you think of any particular reason why Goon Squad thought that was the better way to play this?
Sorry, why they thought what was the better way to
giving up this Baron?
Oh, I mean, they didn't have any vision in the area, so I'm pretty sure they were thinking, like, if they walk in, they're just going to give over more deaths, and the game could just end right there. It would kind of be my thought process. It was the support that went down, right? So they didn't have wards. They had no way to actually get vision in the pit, and, you know, it obviously feels terrible give over the Baron in that situation when you're already so far behind, when you already have such little map control. But if you get aced there, then the game just ends instantly. So
Yeah, but I feel like the game ends on this Baron push anyway, so you might as well go out fighting, send your 4 members to try and find a miracle steal, give Necromancer the space. The Pina's
very
going
deep.
in.
Finds the 3-man ultimate, does the jungler once again, maybe a little bit too far ahead of the team as the Pina is getting chunked down. The Garen ultimate comes out, and the Amumu is going to hit the dirt. He is once again going to be without a friend for the next 50 seconds or so. Spinch, though, does get locked down. The ace in the hole comes out. The Orianna goes golden, but has no way out of this one. Is going to get taken down. GVG picks up kill number 10 of this game. Another inhibitor is going to get destroyed. The last remaining Nexus turret under fire as Necromancer desperately flashing forward. They managed to take down the Zyra, but June is looking to take down Decker in trade, and the Camille will be able to accomplish that mission. GVG also in trouble. No ultimate, flashing away from the Volibear, staying alive for now. So moving back towards the Nexus, but June is already there, and he was AFK for a good chunk of this game, but he's at the Nexus when it explodes. He's there when it matters. That is going to be the 8th straight win for Conduit Gremlins, their toughest opponent yet, and it didn't look tough for them at all.
No, they took that win convincingly, and admittedly, crewman, Game 2 was a whole lot less clean than Game 1. 25 kills to 20 versus 28 to 15, but still standout performances where it mattered from Dark, from GVG, from Pine, doing what they needed to do to get this Conduit team way ahead of GSG and making sure that their win was utterly untouchable.
Yeah, even, with some potential throws there, even with the top laner being AFK for a while, that game still didn't really feel that close, which I think, as you were just mentioning, Oz, is definitely a testament to the size of the lead and the aggressiveness that the mid and jungle, especially for the Gremlins, were playing with in that game. Definitely felt like they were in control, even when maybe they shouldn't have been. So props there. Who's your POG for this one, Ols? I mean, is it Pine again for the Amumu, all those engages? Are we looking towards GVG, the #1 ranked mid laner this time?
Yeah, I think it goes to GVG there, crewman. That was an incredible showing on that Swain, utterly fearless, pressing forward at all times, knowing the limits of the champion and using them to the fullest. I think he's the player of the game here, hands down.
What about June, though? Got that last hit on the Nexus? Huh? Nah, I'm just kidding. It's obviously GVG.
Hey, you gotta play every minute, man.
Yeah. I think, we can give at least a small little bit of props over to June for, coming back and playing well during the parts of the game that he was actually playing, right? It's obviously difficult when you have those connection issues and you have those technical difficulties. It can be hard to stay focused and come back and still have a meaningful impact in the game. But I think they were able to do that. So props there. But definitely, it was mostly about the mid jungle tonight for the Conduit Gremlins, no doubt about it. And that is going to mean that they are going to move up now to 4-0 after week number 4. The only other team that still had an undefeated match score was the Dynasty Celestials, and their opponent tonight was the Big Duck Entourage. So that is somebody that they should have been favored against, definitely. I'm not sure if that result has come in.
We do have
yet.
results. Dynasty won 2-0.
Okay, so Conduit Gremlins and Dynasty Celestials neck and neck there, right towards the top of the standings. Whenever they end up going head-to-head, that is definitely going to be a matchup to look out for.
Oh, absolutely. I'm very much looking forward to that. And that's going to be, I believe it might just be next week. No, Conduit plays Conduit next week.
Conduit Civil War for week 5. Very cool.
We'll
Would it be the last week?
Is it? No, it's week 8 here.
Week 8. Saving it for the penultimate week of the regular season. I mean, that is going to be a very, very exciting matchup. If both teams manage to remain undefeated all the way up until week 8, oh man, could you imagine?
That would be such an incredible match, crewman. Would be wonderful to see. But that is many weeks away. And we have many games to cast before we reach that point.
Yeah, getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, turning our attention to Goon Squad Gaming briefly. Did obviously lose out tonight. That is going to put them at 2-2 in terms of their match score. Going to be at 500 after week number 4. Still in the upper half of the standings. I think absolutely playoff bound is this team most likely. And what do you think was really what went wrong tonight? I mean, Finch got Oriana 2 games in a row. It wasn't enough. Where do you think the wheels came off for GSG tonight, Oz?
They just weren't firing on all cylinders. Finch got caught out early and often. Nobody else on the map was able to take any control. Just didn't feel like they had any jungle pressure at any point in the game. They just weren't playing the same way we saw them play up against BDE in week 2.
Yeah, absolutely. We're looking to see them bounce back for week number 5, as that is going to be important to see as well. It looks like their next opponent for Goon Squad is going to be Subatomic Gaming Proton, another top half of the table team. So that should be a very close match as well. Hoping to see a Goon Squad with a little bit of a better showing there. But do you have any other final thoughts for tonight, Alls? Anything else you wanted to touch on for week 4, or any general thoughts about season 11 overall?
No, I think we've covered just about everything, crewman. It's been a blast. This was a fun series despite the technical delays. Hey, Riot, fix your spectator client. We'd love it, thanks.
It would be really nice if you could do that, yeah.
All jokes aside, it's a fun match. These are 2 great teams, and I'm looking forward to seeing how far they go in this season.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'll be honest, coming into tonight, I was kind of expecting Goon Squad to maybe actually stop this undefeated run from the Gremlins. I hadn't seen the Gremlins play yet, and it definitely felt like Goon Squad had been ramping up over the last couple of weeks, but Conduit Gremlins came in here, and they clearly established themselves as one of the strongest teams in the league. So I think they are absolutely going to be fun to look out for going forward. As already mentioned, going to be hyped to see if Goon Squad can bounce back next week as well. But I think that's going to do it for our coverage tonight. So from myself, from Ols, from the entire production team at Blue Otter, thank you everybody very much for watching. We will see you next week, same time, same place for week number 5. Until then, take care and good night.